all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Double Feature Podcast, episode 11. We're going to be talking about some very interesting movies. I'm your host, Dean, joined by the sinfully something that rhymes with sinfully David. How's it going?
Feeling very devilish today.
Hey, I'm the one who does the rhyming shtick, okay?
Oh, excuse me. Don't want to step on your toes, sir.
I got one thing, all right?
Yeah.
All right. So, David, what are we watching this week?
Well, this week we checked out a couple girl coming-of-age movies. I know, so ick for a couple of boys to be checking these out. But, no, I mean, this is one of my, oddly enough, one of my favorite kind of subgenres of, like, coming-of-age movie or teen movie to watch. I think they often come up with some pretty interesting and thoughtful stories. And the two we picked out were Yes, God, Yes, starring Natalia Dyer of Stranger Things fame, and then Juno, the most famous coming-of-age woman story with Ellen Page at the front role. Why don't we dig into the log lines? A sheltered church girl goes to abstinence camp while in the midst of her sexual awakening. A pregnant high schooler plans to have her child adopted by a suburban couple whose relationship is on the rocks.
So, yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Sounds like
All
there's
right.
a lot of crying coming up.
You would think.
Maybe
But no,
not.
no tears. All right.
A little bit of tears.
A little bit of tears. You know, we're around the third act.
Yeah.
All right, where would you like to start, sir?
Well, why don't we start with Yes, God, Yes. That's the newest movie that came out just a month or two ago, correct?
Yeah, I think it was released on like the festival circuit and all that stuff in like 2019, but like it finally got like released to everyone like maybe a month ago.
Yeah, it's been tough because Dean and I have been trying to do a couple new titles, and this happened to be a new title that I was particularly excited to see. And, obviously with movie theaters still being closed right now for the most part, it's been hit or miss as far as if we can actually find anything that's going to be new. But thankfully we found something new and something that's halfway decent, huh?
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll give you that. It's pretty halfway decent. So, like we gotta be straight on this one. I don't know if I really like the movie or if I really dislike the movie. I don't know my feelings on this movie yet, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not.
Well, hopefully we can figure that out. I mean, personally, I give this movie a thumbs up. I would recommend it to anybody. I think it's fairly funny. I think it's, well, maybe not quite. I don't know if I would call it poignant. I think there's certainly it makes you think a little bit, and it certainly doesn't take its main character and get too inside it. It ends up having. This is a movie definitely full of a lesson at the end of everything, right? From the get-go,
Yeah.
you're going to be learning something along the way. But the lesson at the end of the movie, thankfully, isn't that, A, shoved down your throat, or B,
It's not super heavy
yeah,
kind of thing.
It's just like, yeah, man, do your thing. Anyway, we'll get into all that. Why don't we start off by reviewing the plot?
Yeah, let's go with that. So our main character Alice, she's in this very strange Catholic high school where it's like in the middle, in the middle of nowhere, and it takes place in like the early 2000s or the late 90s, something like
Yeah,
that.
I surmise because of some of the music they had mentioned. They mentioned Blink-182's "Enema of the State" being a new album on CD, if you can
Yeah.
remember. So that's probably around 1999, 2000. And I also suspect that they're somewhere in the Midwest, because, they talk about State College. They're in the middle of the country, I assume, because they eventually talk about colleges on the East and West Coasts, which obviously mean that there's some sort of bias against the East and West Coast liberal trash.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, are you kidding me? Bunch
yeah,
of hippies ruining my California.
yeah. And we also get, after her quick, brutal day at high school, an interesting look into her life at home on AOL.
Oh god. Okay, I need to make a point of this. So, if you were a child of like the late 90s, early 2000s and you had a computer in your home, this girl is on that computer. I had that monitor. I had that PC tower. Like, bruh, I had a nostalgia bomb the size of like
Yeah.
fucking Montana right there.
Yeah, those I always love those computers because when I was a kid, if I got bored, I would like flick the screen and you'd hear the glass go. Clink. But now if you flick your screen, it cracks and you have to buy a new computer.
Yeah, that's true. No
Yeah.
meme. I remember my dad having to move a bunch of those computer monitors. He threw out his back. Those things used to be heavy. Yeah, you used to have to suffer to be a nerd.
They really were a ton. Even the towers were a ton, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, I remember me and my brother. So we had one of those things and we knocked it over when we were like, I don't know, 7, 10, or whatever. And the thing was so heavy we couldn't like stand it back up by ourselves. Like I don't know if there was like a cinder block in there or what, but that thing was made out of solid steel and it could have killed somebody if it landed on it. It was great.
I was gonna say that's
Uh,
probably just the RAM that's that heavy at that point.
oh god, dude, the Rams were the size of bricks. It was great.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
But
that's what she's using.
yeah, she's on Instant Messenger and playing a speed word scramble while eating, it looked like hot cheese puffs and a glass of chocolate milk, I think is what it was, which is,
The most white bread of snack choices.
yeah, this is an interesting point actually that it's not really important at all, but my girlfriend pointed out to me once because she learned it in English class or something, but whenever you see an innocent character drinking milk, they don't drink anything else apparently because that's just a sign of their innocence. And ever since she pointed that out to me, I cannot stop thinking about it when I see these things in movies.
You can't unsee it now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yep, there's the milk, all right on time.
That's actually a thing that they use to subvert. Okay, so the Coens brothers subverted that in oh god, what is it? Old Country or
No country
No
for old
Country
men.
for Old Men. Sorry, I can't remember. But yeah, Anton Chigurh, he only drinks milk in that entire movie, and it's a subversion of that innocence
I like
in
it.
that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coen brothers figured it out, and then they were just like, oh man, this is a weird thing. Let's fuck with it. It's going to be great.
Yeah. But soon enough, her after school snack gets interrupted by somebody asking about what was it again they specifically asked about. It was something dirty, but that
If I remember right, she was on Instant Messenger, and she got a random message being like, hey, you want to you want to party? Here's some
it's
picture of me
you
and
want
my
a
wife.
cyber. Yeah.
Yeah, you want a cyber.
Yeah.
Which, oh my god, the 90s are strong with this one.
Yeah. But yeah, he does send the picture of his wife to a minor, even though I think she says she's like 22 or 21 or 22.
Yeah, she lies about her age on the internet.
Yeah,
Not
which,
revolutionary, but whatever.
it's not out of the ordinary. Which is also another interesting note is thinking about being like a teenager anonymously on the internet. Like that was very familiar, you know?
Yeah. Like it's kind of interesting. This movie has something to say about like maybe not like internet culture, but like early internet culture and like kids like saying or acting a different way on the internet and kind of getting in way over their head and seeing stuff that's probably not appropriate for them. Granted,
Yeah,
she's like 16.
I think
We
what
should
I
probably note
attribute
that she's yeah.
Yeah, I think what I attribute it to is like in every other movie you see a teen, breaking out of their shell and becoming an adult. it's always through this form of like sneaking around, doing things you're not supposed to, drinking and smoking outside of the, in the back alley, the bowling alley or some shit. And I feel like this was kind of, for me at least, pointed out how easy it is for kids to do that nowadays without even A, thinking about it, or B, having anybody realize what's going on, you know? Like,
Yeah.
back then they had to always sneak around the parents, cops, everybody. But now it's like just one of those things where um, kids can just log on and, say they're 22 and then see a picture of somebody's tits.
God bless America.
God bless the USA.
But yeah, but that's like, so we kind of gloss over this, but so this girl, she's having her like sexual awakening and all that stuff, and she's like 16, but like she has like the sexual maturity level of like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Like she is uber sheltered. Like I don't know. We don't know a lot about her, to be honest, other than she's like super religious and really, really like sexually repressed because she thinks she'll go to hell if she like masturbates.
Yeah, it's the
That's the
classic, like,
yeah.
Catholic or Protestant Christian view of sex where, you have to remain abstinent and unaware until you are married.
Yeah.
And then it's just pain and then pleasure for the guy, and then that's it. Like we said, God bless America.
God bless America. Greatest
Um,
country in the world. Bar
yeah,
none.
so, obligatory teenager masturbating scene, how fun.
It happens.
And then I think she gets scared that somebody comes home and, you know, turns off the computer. I swear to God, every time she turns off the computer, because she does it a couple times during these kinds of moments in the movie, I keep being like, dude, somebody's going to turn the computer on and they're going to see it. Especially
Bruh.
because she doesn't close it out when at home, and I'm just like, somebody's going to see this shit, bro.
Bruh, that's the problem. You have modern era perspective. That's an old school computer. You turn that fucker off, everything on there's like deleted, erased away forever. I remember I used to have to save like papers and stuff from like elementary school on floppy disk because your computer only had like, I don't know, like less than a gig of memory.
Yeah,
So that she turned that computer off, it's gone, dead. There's
maybe
nothing on
so.
there.
Maybe
Yeah,
so.
but she does turn off the monitor and thinks that's the computer. So there's
Yeah,
that.
I
So
guess that's my point, is it's like, you're not really doing anything that somebody's going to find that. Um, but we move on. She goes back to school, and there's a rumor going around that she has tossed some kid's salad. Yum, yum. Uh,
have you
uh,
ever heard that term before? Toss somebody salad?
have
Because
I?
yeah, because I've heard it before, but I've heard it in the context of like fucking prison movies. I don't think I've ever heard anybody in real life say, "Yo, like Bill down the street, fucking toss Janie's salad like a champ." I have never heard that uttered from a real human being's mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it before, but it's never something that I would think an adult would repeat because it sounds stupid. But that's exactly why I think that the teenagers are like, magnetized to it, is they're fascinated by this secretive term that they've learned. It's like the first time you learn what thundercunt is, and then you can't stop saying what, that word or any other word. It's
I,
a dirty word to them, and they love the way it rolls off the tongue,
on that
so
note,
to
David
speak.
says Thundercut at least 6 times a day, like every day. It's been his word of the day for the last 10 years.
Some of us still have a kid inside of us, so. Um, but she's apparently has tossed some kid's salad at school at a party, and
Well, that's
obviously,
the rumor going around.
yeah, that's the rumor. And high school drama ensues. The kid's girlfriend is, mean to her, and he won't tell anybody that that's not what happened, and it gets all the way up to faculty at the school who scold her during the, I guess, school assembly church or whatever it is.
It's some sort of weird like prayer Passover kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um also, okay. what the fuck did she do for everyone to just assume that she's a whore bag?
Toss that
Because
kid salad, dude.
well, it's kind of weird because no one, not even her best friend, thinks she's telling the truth that it's a lie.
Yeah.
Everyone just assumes that she's like plowing dudes left and right.
Or more to the point, nobody even believes her when she says she has no idea what that means. Which is at the point where I'm like, it's just one of those things where it's like teens are cruel, so they'll, you know, continue
They'll
on
just
with the
roll
lie.
with it.
Yeah, teens are very us versus them mentality. You know, it's like if they got somebody to pick on, they have somebody to pick on. It gives them power. Um, but eventually this spurs into a lunchroom conversation in which there are some girls and boys who have gone to this camp that's apparently changed everybody's life and yada yada yada. So they decide,
Gets them closer to the Jesus.
yeah, get closer to God, get closer to Jesus.
Jesus.
Yes, praise the Lord. And so they decide to go. Pretty much, that's pretty much what happens. I was kind of surprised with how quick we got to the summer camp. I was thinking it was going to take a little longer, but yeah, I mean,
that's
for
another
sure.
thing. Is this a summer camp? Because I think they're only there for like a little bit, right? Is
Yeah, it's
this
only
like their
like
spring break?
it's like a week or two, but I've been to like whenever I actually was a summer camp kid for a while in high school, and like it only lasted for me about like a week and a half. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if there are a lot of like traditional summer camps today that last like months at a time during the summer.
Granted, I always like, because I grew up hashtag city kid, but like, I legit thought summer camps are like you go like a week after school gets out and you come back a week before school starts and you're there for like 2 or 3 months.
I mean, like, yeah, in the like wet hot American summer style, like traditional summer camp where you're canoeing and playing baseball and doing all this. But like my summer camp was a jazz camp specifically, so like there was a focus, and it seems like there's a specific focus with this where it's like we can't really do months of this at a time.
Or
Uh,
these kids might start like children of the corning and sacrificing us.
yeah, or having huge teenager orgies, as we will apparently come to find out. Um,
Okay, I almost we need to get into the summer camp a little bit because when they get there, it just screams bad news, right? Or is
oh
that
yeah,
just me?
well, yeah, for me it's like I guess I've been to two summer camps, right? I've been to one. The one was the jazz camp, and one it was in the sixth grade. I went to a science camp, um, and that one was only a week long as well. But that one I think was more of a because the jazz camp was like we had our own separate cabins. It was very in the wilderness. There was a mess hall, but still we were in the middle of the woods. The other one was up in like Arrowhead, and there was still like some snow on the ground. We stayed in actual dorms, more like this, because I was kind of surprised that they got like a kitchenette inside their dorms, which is I think looking a little bit too much into the location scouting, but
Yeah. Also, the facility they're at looks like an old folks home.
a little bit, yeah. But that's
Yeah.
kind of on par with the whole you know Midwest
A-
Christian thing.
Actually, no, it doesn't look. It looks like a compound.
I would
All the
agree with
rooms
that
are
more.
all the rooms are real small. It's all cinder block, and like there's like one window that doesn't open from the inside.
Definitely. It's like that building that you get really depressed because nobody uses it for 11 months out of the year, so it just stays vacant and quiet aside from maybe like
Yeah,
one groundskeeper who takes care of it, and that's a super depressing and quiet thought, but you
that
know,
groundskeeper is literally Jack Torrance from The Shining. But
probably.
but this is not as nice as the Overlook Hotel.
No, definitely not as nice. But as soon as they get to the summer camp, the teenage drama continues. people are separated into cliques based on introductions. She has to take a survey in which you are supposed to outline the feelings you have been feeling, so that Jesus can heal them or something like this. And
I
obviously,
don't know about that. That was weird.
yeah, I mean, it's just like because the whole point of the camp is to get closer to Jesus, and I guess it's not specifically an abstinence camp, but that's definitely like a pretty big part of the vibe, because the other part of it is supposed to help you get in tune with your emotions as a teenager, I guess. And that's the point of the worksheet they're given. But obviously, our main character, Alice, says, well, there's horny on the worksheet. I may as well circle it because I have been feeling that way. And, I feel like if I was that teenager, I'd be like, there's no way I'm going to admit to that. There's no way. But she is a bold person.
Bold, yeah. There's some things on that work because it's like a long like list of things. There's probably like 200, like 300, like just random words that are supposed to be like emotions and feelings on that.
Yeah.
And they give them like, I don't know, a couple minutes to like go through and like you scan over them, you circle things you're feeling. But it's not horny, it's turned on.
Oh,
That's what's written there. They're like, hey, have you been feeling turned on in the last year? And I'm like,
that's weird.
I don't care who you are. If a priest comes up to you and says, hey, Alice, have you been feeling turned on in the last year? There's no way that guy does not get sued.
Yeah. I was actually a little surprised that there wasn't a suable offense later on, but we'll get to that. Obviously, Alice
there might be.
Yeah. Alice gets immediately embarrassed that she circled this. Tries to erase it. Obviously, no eraser on the pencil because this is a shitty summer camp. So she has to turn in this worksheet in which she looks like she has aggressively murdered the turned on option.
Because she tries to scribble it away, but it just doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, the lead smears everywhere. And, they're shown to their bunks. She has to give up her watch and cell phone. Now, the cell phone I can understand, but the watch was the thing where I was like, really? You can't tell time while at summer camp?
Bruh, it's because, and I quote, we're on Jesus' time now.
Oh, but that seems, like, of all the things that make this seem like a commune, that seems like the most communist thing is, you don't need to know the time.
Jesus will let you know what time it is.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the thing about, like, the camp that I think is gonna be the part where you're just gonna expect Jason Voorhees to come out and kill all these kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I thought this was gonna turn into, like, go from, like, this coming of age teen girl, like, sex drama comedy thing to a fucking slasher movie.
That would have been an interesting twist.
Like, yeah, she was like, oh, we're going to give you, give us your phone, give us your watch so you can be closer to God or whatever. It's all that setup where it feels like the third act is going to start with a fucking pagan ritual shit where they light her ass on fire. Like, this just turns into the Wicker Man.
Midsummer ensues.
Bruh, don't even act like I'm full of shit on this. You saw the same movie I did.
No, yeah,
it
but
felt like it was going to turn into a horror movie.
Shit, but it's like, I guess I get what you mean, but I just thought that one was weird. But I get it's just supposed to be like a funny, like, we're on Jesus' time thing,
It's supposed to be funny. It's the most horrifying line in the movie.
Yeah. So let's see. We move on from there to, let's see.
Well, after that, that's when we start going into like the camp activity stuff that's supposed to get them closer to like Jesus. And
Right.
like the first one is the whole like introducing each other, telling them like stories where they felt like Jesus wasn't close to them and stuff like that. The sob story thing. Every kid has to tell a sob story.
Oh yes, and then the girl that she because we failed to mention that obviously Alice keeps her cell phone so that she can play Snake on her Nokia brick.
That Nokia brick can take a bullet, dude. Those
yeah, I had one. Dude.
Indestructible.
They were indestructible. But the girl who obviously tells her that we're on Jesus' time tells her sad sob story, in which she felt like th- I really felt like the writer was trying to get me to feel this way, but like, hear me out on this. So the story she tells is that she felt like her parents only gave attention to her older sister, and that's a fair assessment. I get it. You give sometimes parents favor one child over the other, um, but
Good parents
then
aren't supposed to let you know that, but whatever.
yeah, but it can be fairly obvious. And then the sister apparently died in a car crash, right? Or
That's how the
something like
story
this.
leads, right?
Yeah, there's like a coma or a car crash that kills or something. And the girl says, I just felt like nobody was paying attention to me. And that's the point where I go, oh, okay. Your parents don't not just not pay attention to you. They don't like you because you're a horrible person.
But here's the best part. Because, David, you're misremembering this just a little bit.
Ooh.
The older sister didn't die.
Really?
Yeah, the older sister didn't die. They got into a car crash. The older sister didn't get hurt, but she like broke her pelvis, her back, and all that stuff. And the parents were still more interested in the older sister.
Right. Because she's
Yeah.
crippled.
Yeah.
But,
Bruh.
I feel like all my friends and Jesus cared about me. So that's how I found religion.
Again, this movie is fucking weird.
I just thought it was funny because like I thought it would I couldn't tell exactly, but I think there was a very blatant, some people are so full of shit thing. And this movie
Oh no, like
definitely
she screams she is full of shit.
yeah.
The moment she starts talking.
And that's what this movie is about, is saying religion is full of shit. But I just
don't
thought
even
that was
know
a really
if
funny.
that's we'll get to the messagey thing I guess later, but I don't
Yeah.
know if it says religion's full of shit. I think it's saying like people are fucking hypocritical.
Yeah. But either way, I mean, I guess we move on to. There's obviously a boy at the center of all this, not the boy whose salad has been tossed, but a boy who has an abnormal amount of arm hair.
And is the biggest Chad you have ever seen. The guy's
Yeah.
jawline is squarer than a fucking angle. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's like the running back for the football team. He looks like Zac Efron, but again, with a lot more arm hair, of which Alice is particularly attracted to, which is fascinating to me. But
Is that a thing about women? Are women attracted to like arm hair?
I have no clue. I'd venture to defer to ask. I mean, who knows? I mean, some dudes are into feet. Ask Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, that's a proper parallel. That's
Well,
same thing,
it's
right?
like feet are gross, arm hair is gross. I don't get it, but either way, um,
We do not kink shame here at the Double Feature Podcast.
yeah, we
Be into
won't,
whatever you want.
whatever you're into, that's your own thing. Let's see. So we do meet the Chad of the group. Alice is a huge crush on him, but he's obviously Jesusified.
He drank the Kool-Aid last summer and he is all in on Jesus right now.
Very gung ho. This movie kind of jumps around between like very small moments. There are scenes, but there's also a lot of like, 5-second cutaway moments, which I guess are kind of scenes. Whereas like they're in a song circle, and he puts his hand on her lower back, thinking that obviously is a move or whatever. There's various moments where she's finding wood, and she finds a good piece of wood and comes and brings it to him, and he's like, "Great job, Alice! Woohoo!" Um, very
Oh, she fakes a fall and he carries her in his arms back to the nurse's
yeah, smooth
office.
move, honestly. Although she
Yeah.
did scrape up her knee, I noticed that. So it's like, to
She
what
she went
end?
She went for it.
Yeah,
Method acting right there.
but that's very teenager of you, just to, you of course you would hurt yourself just to be carried back someplace by a guy. Um,
And that actually leads us into why she has to like clean up in the cafeteria for the
right.
rest of the summer. So Chad, his character's name is not Chad, but if you look at him, he looks like he should be named Chad,
Yeah.
and like goes yachting on the weekends. He takes her into the nurse's office. She gets checked out, whatever, and immediately runs to her um, dorm room to like take out her cell phone, put on the vibrate function, and just vigorously masturbate. Obviously, that doesn't happen because, crazy church girl opens up the door and be like, "What ho? What's going on? You have your cell phone? That's against the rules." And she's punished by having to clean up the cafeteria for the
Yeah.
rest of the summer.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember getting in trouble at summer camp.
Please tell me no one caught you jerking off in the dorm room.
No, I did less scandalous things like pranks, but I've had to clean up like the common area because like at the jazz camp we went to a local high school to do our like practices, and I had to like clean. You would have to clean trash after lunch. You would have to clean trash around the mess hall, um, mop and sweep the mess hall, um, things like this. But yeah, that was always fun, always worth it. But never jerked off in order to get in trouble. No.
All
Um,
right, just look, the people need to know.
yeah, this is
So,
definitely vital information about David's life.
exactly.
So let's see. From there, we are propelled into the kind of second half of the movie. That's like a midpoint in which now her cell phone's gone. Whatever is she gonna do? Well, in the middle of having to clean the mess hall one day, uh, who do we find out back behind the mess hall?
We find the boy that I guess spread the rumor of a salad tossing occurring, getting blown by the girl who took her cell phone away.
Now that is not Christian.
Yes, also, this kid is bold, all right?
Very
Because
bold
he's
because
just,
they are out in practically the open. They're not hidden at all.
oh yeah, like no meme. She's like mopping or whatever in the kitchen and just looks out the giant like window that's over the sink. Like you can't miss this. And they're like not hidden behind like some bushes or whatever. He's like leaning against the tree and she's like on her knees just going for it.
Yeah, and the
And like
forest
you can
isn't
see
like
the it's not dense, no.
no. It's not a bunch of redwoods. It's a bunch of like, you know, very skinny trees. It's very midwestern forest.
You can kind of see the lake in the background, like,
Yeah.
and there's like a walking path like in there somewhere. Like you could like legitimately somebody could turn the corner at any time and see this. And I think that was this kid's plan. He I think there's something here.
Knowing a teenage boy, yeah, that's probably, he's trying to gain quote unquote street cred, whatever that means.
Exactly.
But, obviously Alice then is fascinated by what's going on. Uh, oh, God.
Oh,
And,
this is where it gets kind of weird. Like I didn't know if I should keep watching
uh,
that one.
yeah, it's kind of funny because there's a few movies that have had this kind of moment go on, right? And it is one of those things where there's actually a really good show on Hulu right now called Pen 15. There's two leading lady comedians play their like I guess it would be like 14-year-old selves. But like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else in the show is actually like 14, but the adults are playing their 14-year-old selves, and it's just about them going into their first year of high school back in like 2001 or 2. Uh, and there are moments in that show that are like that, but it's like a grown woman doing it as a 12-year. It's very weird, but it's also it also makes for some hilarious moments because you realize it's like, well, we all go through that, you know? It's not, I think that's the point the movie's trying to make, is it's not something that's disgusting because we were being voyeuristic of it. It's something that we can all look on as yeah, I guess we've all been there kind of thing. Maybe not while
You're like,
watching two people, fellatiate each other behind a mess hall, but you know.
yeah, but what does Alice do when she sees them doing
It
this?
takes a
Because that's
magical
where it
ride
gets
on the
weird.
broomstick.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little weird because she starts riding this broomstick like she's down at the titty corner, and a little awkward because it's very obvious what she's doing.
Dude, and then Shine Down
And
plays. Oh, that was a really
oh
funny moment.
yeah, I okay, so that's where the comedy comes in this movie is when she starts like getting her feelings and whatnot, I guess. And when she's starting to get turned on, and like you just hear like subtle music come in, like what is it? Christina Aguilera's "Genie in the Bottle" chimes in. You know, you got to rub her the right way
Yeah.
when she sees the Chad for the first time, and it's like stuff like that. Like there's these random little music cues that are in this movie, and you're just like, okay, I don't know why, but this is the funniest shit I've seen like all week.
It's hilarious. Because, like I said, it's everybody goes through this like awkward teenage phase, and if you can't laugh at it, then you're the problem.
Yeah.
But either way, we get past this because the nun comes back into the cafeteria to make a cup of tea. Obviously, there's a moment where Alice startles, and
Gets off the magic broomstick.
yeah, and I think this is the moment, if I'm correct, where she goes into the counselor's office the first time and uses his computer, right?
Yeah, well, it's the priest's office, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is not really an office. Like, it's like, those like secretary, like like the secretary places where it's this big open window that's not really a window. You can't close anything, and it's like a door on the side of it, and there's just a computer there.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. And she goes back there, and she immediately like looks up and like, hey, can somebody tell me what tossing a salad is? Just like, but she can't Google it. She goes on AOL Messenger
Yeah,
and starts, cyber sexing.
fair enough. And obviously that she finds somebody who will not just tell her what it is, but do the very awkward acting it
Foreplay.
out over text thing. Oh, that's disgusting.
Don't be a
Uh,
prude. It's fine.
well, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, how do you not think about how awkward this is while you're typing it out? But in the heat of the moment, as they say. Um,
Yes.
so obviously she gets spooked and it turns again only the monitor off, um, and runs off to hide from who I think it's the counselor that does come back into the office. And from there, I don't know if we immediately move on to him finding it. I think there's
He
um
no, like I think it's like the next scene or the scene after. He's like, "Hey, somebody, did some salacious stuff on my computer in the office. Somebody's gonna step forward. I'm gonna find you. Blah 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 blah. You're in big trouble," and announces
yeah.
that to like the whole camp, or the whole not campus, the whole camp.
Yeah, it's the camp logic where it's like there's only so many of us here. Obviously, it was one of you. So if nobody will come forward, then we're gonna find out, and it's gonna be even worse. Um, and there's a couple scenes we get of her best friend, um, who is getting in with like the cool girls, uh, not believing that Alice didn't toss salad, and is continuing to lie because in a previous scene as well, they're in like this 4-person support group, I think.
It's in the beginning of the movie when they do the we're comparing sizes for like our misery stories about
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
definitely what it felt like.
Yeah.
I think one girl tells about how her, oh, I think she says her grandma died, which made me roll
Yeah.
my eyes because it's like, well, what are old people supposed to do? You know, if they're not
Wow,
dying.
you heartless bastard.
Listen,
Oh.
listen, 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 listen. I get it. Cry when they're dead, but it's one of those things where it's like, I can't believe my grandma died. Well, if she lived forever, I think then you would really think about having she has a problem or something. I mean,
You
that's
find
what
out,
old people do.
grandma's 110 years old. She drinks like infant blood to keep herself alive. That's when you get concerned.
And that's when I would definitely be more concerned. I mean, you know, gonna miss grandma, but we all gotta go sometime.
Heartless.
Not heartless because Alice also didn't really give a shit about the story because she was trying to see if Chad would give him give her some attention. So she faked a story in which her dog died, which also prompts her to try and fake cry. But that's this just makes the girl whose grandma died cry more, which
Yeah. Plan kind of backfired there. You
yeah,
know, the crying girl's the one who gets the hug.
yeah, I still think that's funny.
Jesus.
I don't know, dude. Listen, like I said, we all got to go sometime, and that's what your grandparents do. That's what happens.
Uh.
Enjoy
So
your time
yeah.
with them while they're here. Call your grandparents, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So after moving on,
Yeah.
so basically she gets like shunned from her friends and all that stuff, and she's like, you know what? Fuck this noise. I'm gonna frame fucking that one dude who's lying about tossing salad.
Yeah.
And successfully frames him, but now everybody thinks he's also gay.
Yeah, because basically what she does is she goes back into the priest's office and leaves because he drops like his promise
Promise
bracelet
bracelets.
that he has with his girlfriend one day when she confronts him about why he spread the rumor around, and then also is like, have you done anything to stop it? And he just says, well, I kind of like that everybody thinks that you ate my ass, which is just like, dude, come on. So she takes that bracelet and plants it under the keyboard in the priest's office, which definitely isn't proof that he necessarily did it, but is definitely damning enough to make the priest go like, well, it couldn't have been anybody else.
Yeah. Also, when she plants it, the priest, is coming in, so she hides in I guess, the supply closet. And what does the priest do, David, once he finally is alone at the computer?
Well, okay, before this, I want to ask something. Do you feel like when she exits the office and goes into the closet, he definitely would have seen her?
That's a good fucking question, because it's a really open, like, area. So, like,
Well, not only that, but it's like a split second between when she's in the hall coming out of the office to when he is in, or when he passes by the closet doorway. So it feels like he would have seen her, you know?
l- so I'll say he could have if he was, like, paying attention, but I don't know. But that does lead to some very interesting implications.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe it could have been one of those things where he sees Alice in the back into the mess hall and he's like, oh, she's just cleaning up. But again, one of those things where it's like we tend to find these moments in every movie we watch where there's one thing that's just like, does that make a whole lot of sense? But, doesn't matter because
I mean, if he did see her, then him in front of that computer changes the mood and the tone for that scene tremendously.
a lot. But hopefully he didn't see her. And that's, I think, by the end of the movie we'll come to find that I don't think he saw her.
Yeah.
But we
So
won't be spoiling that yet because it's a good moment.
so what he does in front of the computer is he sits down, gets the lotion out, goes on his AOL Messenger, downloads that great dial-up basic 70s porn, and just goes to town. After a long day of teaching some shitty kids,
Well,
you know.
yep. God can't watch everybody at once.
I wish that was like his shtick at the end of the movie, where she's just like, "Well, and he's like, God doesn't watch everybody at once, Alice. You fuck off." But yeah, so Alice accidentally observes the priest
Dooting it.
yeah,
Yeah.
doing it, playing, doing the 5-finger shuffle,
Yeah. Polishing his
and
cane, I guess they call it.
playing pool with 2 balls. And I wonder how many more of these he can come up with, but yeah,
It could
there's a
probably go
lot.
on forever.
And it's true.
Yeah.
So does that. Alice is fucking mortified. This is, oddly enough, the only person in the movie that we see doing sexual acts that Alice doesn't immediately get turned on by.
Yeah,
Or,
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's. He's kind of, you know, he's kind of a fucking dork. So it's.
Yeah.
But either way, um, obviously now Alice feels she's holding a something that she had taken out of the sink in just a moments before in a previous scene. It's all mushy and just bad moment. But we move on from there to the priest finally coming out and um, catching the culprit in the form of the rumor kid.
Ass-eating kid.
Yeah.
The rumor kid.
Um, so he's sent away. Alice feels a little bad about this because obviously there's, you know, I think it's an interesting moment in which she has to finally be like, oh, that didn't feel good, but I guess he deserves it. I think this is
Yeah.
another side of the coin to these coming of age stories where we don't just get like our innocence taken away because, you know, life is tough and complicated, but also because life is full of complicated emotions and actions that you may not feel good about.
Yeah, and you have to, like, figure it out on the way.
Yeah. But
So, she feels guilty about this, and also, the rumor now is that he's gay because it was, like, Alice was looking it up, so she was looking up stuff about dudes, but since, the male kid who he's talking about eating ass, now it sounds like he was the one looking up, sex stuff about dudes, so everybody thinks he's gay. And at this kind of camp, at this point in time, David, were you surprised there was not a pray the gay away scene in this movie?
teeny bit, though I think the reason I didn't end up, being surprised that there wasn't one was that rumor seems to be specifically amongst the teens rather than the priest, who probably A, doesn't know about what's going on with that, or B, is only aware of the chat that came up on. I mean, who knows what the priest was actually thinking? I mean, at this point, he might have continued the chat once it was open.
That would have been interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but never know. Don't know what goes on behind closed doors except God. So I guess we move on from there. I can't remember exactly or I think let's see.
If you're wondering if there's a scene after this, not really. There's the camp, like, sing-along thing, and then she, bails to the bar.
Yeah, well, because that's when her friend accuses her of. That's after her friend accuses her of lying about everything, and then when she feels like she doesn't have anybody around, they're around the campfire at night, and she just kind of walks off into the woods and down the road, and definitely in danger of being abducted. But glad she wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just our fucked up way of viewing the world nowadays, in which that definitely
Bruh,
would
again, you tack on an extra hour to this movie. She gets abducted. Her dad's Liam Neeson. We got a whole different movie now.
Yeah. Virginity Taken, I think, is the alternative title.
Yes.
So yeah, she walks all the way down to this biker bar on the side of the road, and just kind of.
It's not a biker bar. That's like a lesbian bar.
Well, it's like a roadside bar that just happens to be particularly LGBTQ.
Yeah.
All kinds of misfits inside, and she just slips through the door, slips inside, and orders a wine cooler. Bartender and other women at the bar kind of give each other the look like, is she serious right now? And then the woman at the bar is just like, I think it's a nod as if to say, I'll pay for it. Just fucking give it to her. We're all gals
Yeah, it's
here.
like, it's one of those things where like that look translates to, okay, this girl probably had the shittiest day of her life right now. Fuck it, give her a drink. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, she'll have one.
Which is very nice, This is a very nice moment because then Alice and the biker chick sit down to have a conversation about what's going on, things that have happened to the biker chick, what happened to Alice recently, and they kind of have a heart-to-heart about what she's going through, and finally they finish their drinks. Alice is, super, just
jazzed.
That really killer buzz you get from the wine cooler.
That also, she pounds that fucker down like a champ. Okay,
Yeah.
like Alice, she probably knows how to party. Okay, she kills that entire wine cooler in like a single drink.
Yeah, and the biker chick offers to take her back to the camp because obviously she just can't let her walk home. And as a last little final bit of advice at the gate of the camp, she tells her to just look up some colleges on the east and west coasts. Might be
Get
nice
out
to
of the Midwest.
Yeah, which I agree with. I mean, I've only been through the Midwest a couple times, but it definitely seems like it would suck out there. No offense to anybody who is from out there, but
It depends where you are in the Midwest, because it's different from being like, oh, I'm from the Midwest. Like, I'm from Phoenix versus I'm from the Midwest. I'm in, the fucking middle of nowhere. My population is 7.
I was gonna say, is Phoenix the Midwest?
Is Phoenix the Midwest?
No, I feel like that's the West at this point. Like Desert City.
Actually, that's a good question. Where the fuck would you qualify the Midwest?
Well,
That's like Montana, Minnesota, all that stuff, like where it snows and shit.
no, I feel like Montana and Minnesota is like north, because that's at that point you're getting towards like very wilderness centric cities. Not to say that Minneapolis is probably a wilderness centric city, but Montana is
I mean,
definitely
I've been to Minneapolis. It's a city. It's just cold.
Exactly. And I feel like Michigan's Midwest, which is just beyond that. Wisconsin definitely is the Midwest.
Yeah.
I guess if you go further into the south towards like Illinois is definitely, Kansas is definitely, Oklahoma is.
Illinois and Wisconsin are right next to each other.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like both of those are, and I feel like the cutoff is Pennsylvania, whereas in the west it's probably like once you hit the Rocky Mountains, you're starting to not be the Midwest anymore.
Is Colorado the Midwest?
I would say no.
You would say no.
Because
too much weed, isn't it?
Well, yeah, politically it's definitely not the Midwest, but then it's like geographically it doesn't fit in with the vibe of the Midwest, because the Midwest is all like flat flyover stuff, whereas Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, they all have like ski resorts, mountains, it's a little bit different.
So basically, she's like, yo, get the fuck out of like wherever the fuck you're from and go to like California or New York.
Yeah, and I it's good to get out and experience the world a little bit, That's a good point to have made. But she goes back to camp, does not get in trouble because nobody has any idea where she is, I guess, and doesn't seem to care that she's gone.
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody had done that when I was in summer camp, the whole camp would be on lockdown until they found me. Um, I mean, there were
I
two
mean,
kids at one time, at one year at that jazz camp that got in trouble for smoking weed in the forest, and they were in trouble.
they just got disappeared to the gulag. That's what happened to them.
Yeah, practically. But we wake up on the eve of going home, and we have one final like, let's get anything off our chest. Is there anything you want to say to Jesus right now, or something like this? And Alice, after one kid gets up and says some stupid religious, or no, it's I think that's actually the scene in which we find out that what's his face got caught, and it's like,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
yeah, and he says something at the front of the room that's like, I let temptation get a hold of me, and I won't do it again. I'm sorry, God. You know,
Really boilerplate, like Sunday school kind of like, I'm sorry, Jesus, for very vague, random thing to make, the priest happy.
I'm sorry, jeez.
I'm sorry, Jesus.
And then Alice, after nobody else is really making any moves, decides to get up and say her piece. And boy, does she say her piece.
This speech is where I get, like, I don't know about this speech.
Really?
I don't know. Again, I'm like, I don't know if it's like, it's deserved, I guess. Because she, like, lays her, like, heart out, and she's like, we're all, like, fucked up, we're all dealing with our own shit, yada, yada, yada. But, like, I don't know if it's, like, her struggle in this movie seems so benign, if that's, like, the right word.
I don't know. I mean, I think that she definitely has a struggle going through the movie, because I don't think like these coming of age stories have to be so pronounced in their
Yeah,
conflict.
they don't have to be grandiose, but, like, well, okay, conflict. What is her actual conflict in the movie? It's her, like, coming to terms with, like, can I masturbate and not go to hell?
Yeah, I mean, or generally it's like the sexual awakening of, is sexuality okay or is it sinful? You know? Or in
Well, I
general,
don't.
that extends further into, is it okay for us to shame ourselves for trying to be human?
Yeah, no, I ain't getting that. Like, okay, maybe, like, the underlying, like, thematic identity of the film, it's like, is because the whole movie, it's obvious about, like, religion and sex and the partnership between those, like, ideologies.
Yeah.
Do you have a sexual identity and you're open and you explore that sexual identity, or do you contribute to a rigid, like, religious structure that, like, your family and has tradition and all that stuff? Like, where is the in between that you can live in? And that's Alice trying to find that in between, because it doesn't seem like she hates her religion. It doesn't seem like she, like, despises it or she thinks it's evil. She just thinks it's hypocritical. That it's like, well, I feel this way. God makes me, God made me. So why is it sinful that I feel this way, when obviously everybody else is feeling the same way I do, but, like, I'm the one struggling with it. So, like, I don't know if this is, like, a huge conflict that she needs to, like, overcome, kind of thing. Cuz, like, I don't know if it's just, like, the story didn't, like, build me up to this point and this payoff feels right, or if it's like, this is a good payoff and it's just I didn't feel the build.
You know what I think it is? Because I get what you're saying right here. I think what it is that the speech didn't seem characteristic of her, right? I think that the language she uses is not, it doesn't sound like it's coming from her after how she's been the whole movie. And that it's such a sudden change from what we've been watching for 90 minutes that it doesn't quite feel right. I
Oh,
kind of would have liked it if there was something that the biker chick had said, or there was something that she could call back to into it, that
Well,
is
that was like a scene before, and like the only thing she says is like, we're here to deal with our own shit.
well, yeah, and I guess that's my point. Is like I don't feel like the biker chick ever said that. Whereas I feel like her being like this naive, impressionable young teenager would have repeated something that somebody said that makes sense to her, but she can't put it into her own words, which is kind of how we all are. I mean, we don't put things into our own words at that age. We're very much looking for examples of how to mold ourselves from our role models and other adults, you know? So I kind of feel like that speech needed something that she could say that wasn't in her own words, but was definitely true to her and to the point of the story.
Yeah, like this movie, it's really weird, and I think it has to do with something like, okay, a point of what you said is like that's what we've been dealing with for the last 90 minutes. But I think that's where the flaw is, because this movie is not 90 minutes. This movie is like less than 90 minutes. I think it's only like 70 minutes long. This movie is really short. And
I want to check
I
on that
think
because I thought it was 90 minutes. Let's see.
no, it's an hour 18. So
Yeah,
it's
okay.
78 minutes long. It doesn't even hit 80 minutes.
Yeah.
But and it's based off of a short film, and the short film, it's not very long either. I think the short film's only like 20-ish minutes, if that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing about this movie. It feels like a short film padded out to hit a feature length, like film length, but there's not enough like content there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, and I don't want to like talk shit about the director, talk shit about the writers or anything like that, because I think they do a very good job. This is a very well-made movie. But it just feels like there's just not enough here for me to grab onto and like jive with. It just, I don't know. It doesn't feel empty. There's stuff there. It's like the water pitcher has water in it. It's just not enough to fill the cup.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It probably could have used an extra scene or two. I think this is actually an interesting point about both movies is that, as we'll come to find when we talk about Juno in a moment, there was the low points of each of these movies aren't quite long enough in my mind. Maybe this one is a little bit longer than Juno's, but I think there could have been some extra, like, we're in our feels kind of moments in the low point, because basically the low point of this movie is the best friend calls her a liar. She walks away from the campfire. She walks to the biker bar. They have a conversation, and then that's it. And all of that happens within a span of like 8 minutes at most. And then maybe there needs to be a little bit more of a build up and tension in the latter part of that. The ending of the movie probably also could have used something a little bit more satisfying in itself. But I think there's a little bit to which maybe the directors and writers thought that there wasn't much they could do to satisfy that, because the whole point of the story in itself, and I think it was the right decision to make, because at the end of this, I think there's a level to which there's no satisfaction to be had in realizing what she realizes. You know, the whole religion's kind of bullshit and I need to go my own way kind of thing. Isn't a satisfying thought as much as we'd like to think so, because it's been her whole life.
I honestly don't even think that's the thing we get out of the end of the movie, where it's like, oh, religion is bullshit and you need to find our own way. It's almost like, I don't know. It's like, because it seems like she doesn't give up like the religion.
But well,
it's almost like she comes to terms with it.
Maybe
like
because this is an interesting argument for this last scene, right? Where she's in confession with the priest, and she comes clean about seeing him masturbate.
And he kind of resolves being like, we have to just, life is complicated. God probably doesn't actually care if you jerk off.
Yeah,
you're fine.
I think his specific words are, that's between me and God. Or that's between you and God or something. And he gives her the 50 Hail Marys and 50 Our Fathers, yeah. And she's sent off to go do her penance. And there's a girl on the pew who's doing her penance, and then Alice just walks out of the church. And I guess that's why I get a little bit of the whole she finds it to be bullshit thing, because that's in religion, I mean, as a Christian, that's probably a very disrespectful thing for you to do, to be given penance and then not do it. Uh, in which
Well,
you know,
like, that's the thing, because it's almost like, because I don't get the feeling that the religion is bullshit. It's that people are bullshit and are using religion to like push their bullshit onto me, or well, onto Alice. Like that's like what I'm getting from her perspective. It's like, I'm here doing penance, I see this girl doing penance, I don't see the priest doing penance.
yeah,
He's full of bullshit. The religion might not be full of bullshit, because she still seems to like love going to church with her dad. She seems to enjoy like the religious stuff. Like, I don't think she has a problem with like the religion as a whole. It's just this very one aspect that shows the hypocrisy of the people in this religion, and that's where she has a problem.
yeah. I think it's just for me. I think that's one way to look at it. For me, I think it was that she just likes being with her dad, because her mom didn't seem all that religious, and
I don't think so.
yeah, and like I just think it was something that she liked spending time with with her dad, and then, you know, um, I think there was I think I think I'm coming to it with a little bit more of a cynical take on it, I guess, but I think there's certainly an air of bullshit going on either which way, whether
Yeah,
it's about the people or the religion, which is
that's
something we
I
could
think that's the
definitely agree
argument.
on.
Yeah, I think that's the argument that's going on, because it's like, you know, perspectives makes conversations. You have one perspective, I have a different perspective, and we try and figure out like what's going on.
Yeah,
And I can see your argument based on the scenes, based on everything we see. It's like, yeah, the religion's bullshit, but like I'm looking at it, I'm coming from it, I guess, from a more optimistic sense. I don't even know if that's it. It's just I'm looking at it where it's like, it's not the institution, it's the people kind of thing that are bullshit. I don't know. It's a very weird like thematic point in the movie that makes you question and think a lot about it, that honestly kind of comes out of fucking nowhere.
yeah.
Is it supposed to be a movie about a woman or a girl figuring out that she really wants to jerk off and she can't?
Well, think that's only happening because, like, she can't, because people are chastising her. So then the final point of the movie has to be about those people, I guess. But it's one of those things where you should go watch it and decide for yourself. It gets you thinking, so that means there has to be something there, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But another movie that this movie has to compare itself with, the indie darling of 2007 that destroyed the award season and box office, Juno, we'll be talking about right after this.
Dean, I found a great way for us to do something cool and to make a little money on the side.
Ah, great. I've been looking for a new place to put my money. What do you got?
No investment needed. In fact, it's super easy, and there's creation tools we can use to record our podcast right from the phone or computer.
Wait, why would you record a podcast on your phone? You want? No, never mind. Where do I put my money for this?
I don't need any of your money. We can even get our podcast distributed to big streaming platforms like Spotify and Google Podcasts.
Oh, I get it now. We're talking big business here, okay? So you're going to need a lot of money from me. How much money are we talking here?
No, definitely don't need any of your money. In fact, we can make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership.
Okay, now I think I'm getting what you're going at here. We need to spend money to make money, so we're talking some big gains here. Big gains.
No, definitely no. I don't need any of your money. Just all we need to make a podcast right in one place.
Okay. So what you're telling me is that you're gonna need a pretty big check from me for this podcast. So do I just make it out to cash? Because it's no problem for me. I'll just write it up right now.
No, listen, Dean, just head over to anchor.fm and check it out. You'll see why Anchor is the best place for us to record, edit, and distribute our podcasts. And I definitely do not need any of your money.
Shut up and take my money. And we're back. Welcome, ladies and germs.
Well, what do we got next?
We got Juno, like we were saying before the thing. Uh, so yeah, let's. You ever seen Juno before?
No, this is actually the first time I've seen it, which is apparently a crime to some people.
Really?
Yeah, when I told my girlfriend this is the first time I saw it, she was like, "You have never seen this movie?" Even though she's like seen nothing.
Yeah. I'd say I've. I don't know if okay. So I've seen probably the first half of Juno like years and years ago at like a party or whatever. Like somebody put it on in the background and I was like waiting for somebody to I don't know, I think I was waiting for my ride to show up. So I watched like the first half of it and then I left. But that was many years ago.
Hell of a party movie.
Yeah, I think it was like, yo, I want people to fucking leave, so we're putting a movie on, so fucking get out.
Oh yeah, that's
But
right.
yeah, the best party movie is probably like Animal House, because you don't really need to pay attention to the whole thing. You just look and it's just funny. Or like any horror movie, take your pick. It's good to have in the background. So yeah, I have no idea if this is a good movie or not.
Well, I think there's a certain to extent we can't deny that it is a quote unquote good movie because it's like everybody else loves this movie.
Yeah,
Um,
like there's merit to it, but like,
there are some very interesting things that go on in this movie, and I'll give it that. There's Diablo Cody is a very prolific screenwriter, and if anything else, I have to give her credit for the fact that this was her first big hit, and to this point, I think is the movie that she earns the most credit for. Uh,
yeah, I know Diablo Cody's written. She writes a lot of fucking scripts. I know that much, but I'm looking right now at like the movies that the movies that she's written and has been accredited to. Because if you didn't, because for people who don't know, if you're a screenwriter, sometimes you might write like 100 something scripts, but only like 10 of them actually get made into anything. So you can be a
yeah,
prolific writer and no one sees like the movie.
it's tough.
Yeah. But so Diablo Cody, she writes Juno, and that's the big hit. That's the one like everybody's like, oh, this is the first script she's ever written, but it's obviously not. It's just the first one that got big.
Yeah,
And then after that she writes Jennifer's Body,
I remember
if
when
you
that came
guys
out.
remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then oh wow. It's just like TV after that, and then like I think that's it.
yeah. There's a couple Charlize Theron bits. Um, a lot, like you said, a lot of TV stuff, and that's pretty much it. But when you do your hit the first time around, what more do you want? Yeah, because I think she's got some producing credits as well. But
Oh yeah, no, she does a lot in the industry, which I mean, honestly, good for her
yeah,
because
very prolific.
she very prolific. I don't think she stopped working since Juno came out.
Yeah,
But let's talk about the movie that I guess you would say made her career.
right. And this movie obviously is also pretty iconic for some of the images it shows, such as the first image we kind of get through this movie is Juno staring at that armchair in the middle of somebody's lawn, drinking that Sunny D.
Pounding that shit back.
Yeah, I can feel that on my teeth. Um, and we get our nice little credit sequence
It's
where
very
she's
early 2000s
oh yeah, with the whole like rotoscoped, like it's weird.
sketch drawing thing.
I actually didn't notice this, but Juno's character herself is actually cut out of a Xerox. If you look closely, you could see like the printer ink on it.
Oh yeah. That's an interesting thing. So the opening sequence of this movie, it looks like a cut up stick and paste like zine format, like you'd see in
Yeah, that's a good
like
description.
yeah, like you'd see it in like 90s like cartoons and stuff like that if they wanted to be like hip and shit. But how they did that, like they actually had Ellen Page on a treadmill and they took pictures of her from different angles, and then they put those onto a really shitty Xerox fax machine, sent it through that, and then that's what you actually see in the movie. It's the Xerox of pictures that they took. But, well, you know.
A look behind the curtain. But she's
Little
on her
bit.
way to the local corner store in which we see Rainn Wilson in his most iconic movie role.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Everybody knows the guy who says, that ain't no Etch-a-Sketch. Which, you know, she buys the pregnancy test and tries seeing if it's a false positive. But nope, she's taking her third or fourth one.
Absolutely preggers.
Yeah, absolutely pregnant.
It reminds me of my old job. It's great.
Oh, yeah, Dean used to work at Walgreens.
I did. I worked at a really shitty drugstore where this would happen, where women would come in, they'd buy a pregnancy test, go use our bathroom, come back and be like, "Yo, I need to buy a few more of these," and they would go in and out of our bathroom, testing themselves. And after a while, they'd come up and be like, "All right, I guess I'm pregnant. I would like to purchase these Plan B pills," and I'm like, "Fucking okay, you could have just started with that, but all right."
Yeah.
Because people are terrible. But, you know, you didn't have to piss on my floor.
Life comes at you fast.
Lice comes at you fast, but why the fuck are these women pissing on the fucking floor? What's wrong with these people?
That's true. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. A Walgreens toilet probably isn't the most. I wouldn't want to touch one, but have the common decency, you know.
Look, I work there, all right? One, you don't want to touch that if anybody's ever been in there. And two, the cleaner that was used at those places is basically sulfuric acid. You don't want to put your ass on those.
Fun.
Yeah, legit. I burned off a fingerprint because of that shit.
Another
shit's
look
wrong.
behind the curtain.
I look behind the curtain of my life.
Yeah.
Some shitty retail.
We've learned a lot about David and Deed today.
Exactly.
But so we move on. Juno obviously is now like, well, I guess I'm pregnant. What am I going to do about it? She goes over to a friend's house, tells her the news, and they're like, well, what are we going to do about this?
Well, her first plan is to go get an abortion, because that's comedy gold.
Yeah, that scene is actually there. I have a screenwriting, not a screenwriting, but a film studies quote unquote textbook that I got for my first film studies class.
Yeah.
And one of the first scenes that it goes over in that book is this scene of the abortion clinic.
Yeah, it does a lot of really interesting things with like sound in that scene.
Sound, and this is one of those moments where I feel like if you're a beginning filmmaker, watch this scene to learn about what show versus tell means. Because the scene starts, she's walking up and she walks past Soo Chin, who's outside,
protesting.
Babies want to get born. Babies want to get born.
And she's the only person there, and it makes it just a little bit sadder.
Yeah. And so she walks into the clinic. Juno walks into the clinic anyway, obviously gung-ho about getting this baby eliminated from the world. And obviously there's a little bit of awkward exchange with the receptionist, who's a punk chick who keeps offering her condoms. Then after she sits down, she starts to think a little bit more about this thing that Sushin told her, in which
babies have fingernails.
Babies have fingernails. And we look around the room and see, people tapping their fingernails, people itching. And it starts to get to Juno, and finally she decides, I can't take this anymore, and storms out of the abortion clinic, kind of freaked out. And Soo Chin gets a win.
Score one for the weird religious Asian girls in the world.
Oh boy, that baby's gonna get born.
Yep. So,
where from there, I think we go back to the friend's house, right?
I think so. We go back to her house, and Juno is like, I can't do it, cold feet. I'm gonna have the baby, but I'm gonna have to tell my parents. Fuck, this is a bad situation. Like, that's Juno's whole thing. But she doesn't say it like that because, okay, we probably should prefix this for the rest of the movie. Juno doesn't speak like a person. She speaks like a character.
Yeah, she speaks how if a kid watched Howard Hawks and then listened to nothing but the White Stripes would talk. Um, it's very. I will say this: it's very indicative of the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
It's all like faux shiz and You Feel Me and I don't even know because that was when my sister grew up and that was oof.
Something different.
Yeah, but it's also very fast paced and very witty, quote unquote. But definitely still in that teenager kind of cringy style.
It's the thing where it's like it sounds like she knows she's in a movie and she's talking like basically exactly as you said. She's talking like she's in a Howard Hawks like romantic comedy. Like it's just one-liners and zingers and weird like just witticisms and flows of consciousness
Yeah.
that don't feel natural at all.
Yeah, and there was a certain extent to when the movie started, I was fascinated by it and I kind of liked it because it was different, you know? It's not just the normal dialogue flow we get. There's another screenwriting rule that I love to live by in that your characters should sound different, you know, and they should have a distinct sound to them. And I think that's what Cody was going for with all this, is it giving them a distinct sound by making them, you know, fast-talking, witty characters. But it does get old. We will find that it does get a little old.
Yeah, we'll wrap that up a little bit later, but we'll start moving.
It's also that not all of the characters talk this way. So, in
that's
fact,
probably it. It's
some
just
of the
Juno.
some of the characters are very aware that Juno is this way, and while that's very true to like, you know, how adults view teenagers, it's also puts you firmly on the for I think the both of us anyways puts us firmly in this place where we're like, we don't really like it either.
Yeah. But eventually Juno does have to kind of come to term with that one, she talks weird and that she's also pregnant and she has to tell her parents. And that scene, I got issues with.
Interesting. Because so the first thing is I was super afraid because when J.K. Simmons is your dad.
Bruh.
Yeah.
So we saw J.K. Simmons 1-2 weeks ago in our Palm Springs episode. Yes. And that man was killing people.
Yes. Love us some J.K. Simmons. We really do. But yeah, here he plays like he's just a suburban dad with, you know, a second wife who his life is his work. He's a air conditioning technician.
Repairman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he's pretty milquetoast guy, I guess is how you could put it.
Very basic suburban dad, like working class dad.
Yeah.
That's his character.
She sits both her dad and her stepmom, played by, if I can get it right, because she's also really good.
Oh yeah, I like the stepmom character.
She's from
Allison Janney?
Yeah, Allison Janney, who's famously from West Wing.
That's why she looked fucking familiar. Okay.
Yeah. So she sits both of them down, and she finally spits it out. I'm pregnant.
Also, her parents do not act at all like you would think. Because Juno's 16, right, in this movie? So, if you were a father and your daughter of 16 comes in, you're sitting there with your, wife, and your daughter tells you that she is very pregnant and she is going to be giving the baby away to these people she found in the penny saver, how would you respond? Put yourself in the place of a father. How would you respond to this situation?
Well, I mean, I think there's a level to which the specificness of the characters dictates that, because Yeah, I think there's a fear. We are very much in the shoes of Juno in that moment where it's like we're afraid that she's about to get her ass kicked.
I
Um,
thought she would get chased out of the house with a shotgun.
but there's the other part of it where it's like, well, not everybody is going to react that way, and I kind of feel like because of how her parents view Juno, it's not that they expected it, but that they're like, well, Juno does get into some trouble, so it's like I think
That's
they literally say, we thought you were going to be expelled.
We thought you were gonna be expelled. I thought you were gonna be addicted to drugs. Like I thought this.
Yeah.
What in Juno's past has she done that her parents find out that she is pregnant and just barely care? It barely registers with these parents.
I don't know. I didn't read it as they barely cared. I think I read it more as they're very, they both have jobs full time and they're very, put a casserole in the oven type of parents. So it's one of those things where I feel like, especially because I think my family is this way, if something happens to you, we have to figure out a way to do right by it, not just to be angry about it. And I think
Look,
that's
there's
the
there's doing right by it, and then there's like how these parents reacted. I get David, if you came home, you're 16 years old, and be like, hey, here's my prom date. Also, she's 3 months pregnant with your grandson. Are you walking out of that house without a black eye?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I would only because it's not one of those things where I feel like the correct answer is to lash out in anger. I mean, kids are fuck. I mean, as
Kids are
yes, God,
fucking
yes,
stupid. We've agreed with that. Yes.
kids are stupid, but also kids are gonna be kids. They're gonna figure out a way to do this shit. So
Yeah.
um, it's like at least they're not dead. Is I guess the thing I go by, and that's kind of I think the attitude that the parents are going by is well, at least you're not dead.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know. It's how they react that is just like throwing me out of this scene super hard. I think that's where I'm like getting hung up on this because it seems to me like okay, it seems to me that this just hits them and they're like, well, what's for dinner? Like that's cool. Well, we'll take care of it tomorrow. It's whatever.
Yeah, and that's not to say I don't think that they aren't angry because after the two teens leave the room, J.K. Simmons does mention that he's gonna punch Michael Sarah in the dick next time he sees him. So
Yeah.
you know,
Also,
this
Michael Cera coming back to just be a lady killer in another movie.
yeah, I mean,
Simon saw Scott Pilgrim slaying pussy left and right, comes back to Juno, does it again.
was Scott Pilgrim before this?
Scott Pilgrim was after this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think so.
Scott Pilgrim, I think, was 2010.
But this I think might be fresh off some Arrested Development.
Oh, yeah, this is him after Arrested Development. I know that for sure, because I watched all of Arrested Development because I'm
Yeah.
weird.
No, lovely show. It's the best.
Very good.
Uh,
Yeah, so he was on Arrested Development. Then he was in Juno, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, Year One. Oh wow! Like Scott Pilgrim like right before this. What the fuck?
yeah, Arrested Development started in 2003
Oh
and
yeah, and this
lasted
movie was
till
2007.
2006. So yeah, this is right afterward.
Yeah, he did Superbad right before this too. Like Superbad came out the same year.
Yeah. What a year for Michael
Wow,
Cera.
right? And then Scott Pilgrim came out in 2010. Wow, between 2007 to 2010, he was in like
Hot commodity.
yeah, he's big. Granted, I think he was typecasted in awkward teenager in love.
But it worked.
It did, it really did.
Yeah.
Build a
Um,
career off of that.
so speaking of, we kind of move on from here to them interacting. I think the first time they interact, she again does this whole elaborate thing to tell him that she's pregnant. She makes this scene out in front of his house.
She drags the chair they had sex on in front of his house and lays out a carpet. There's like a side table. She has a pipe.
Yeah, the pipe is
What?
interesting.
Yeah, is that like a whole thing where it's like a pipe is just a pipe? It's not a dick. Is that what that means?
I don't know. It's very I think it to me it just tracks as like Juno's just trying to be quirky and different. I don't know if there's like
She's really trying.
yeah, well, and that, but as teenagers do, like they're all trying to figure out themselves. Um, she just particularly is flamboyant about it. Um, and obviously Michael Cera's like he's floored by this. Or not quite
Yeah.
floored, but like what are we gonna
Michael
do?
Cera does his deer in the headlights routine.
Yeah. Um, and she has come up with a plan with her best friend that she's going to give birth to the baby and they have it adopted by somebody else, and it's gonna be
Mm.
fine.
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about. Um,
The couple that's gonna adopt him is played by Jennifer Gardner and Jason Bateman,
yes.
which for some reason they just looked like that couple.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely Garner especially is perfect for the character that she ends up playing.
Yeah.
Bateman is a little bit. I think he's a little bit too domestic for the role.
What do you mean?
Well, he's supposed to be playing this former grunge rocker, but
Yeah, who kind of gave up on his dream when he met his wife, kind of
yeah,
thing, and became the
and
suburban dad.
it's kind of. I mean, think about who he was in Arrested Development. Speaking of the devil,
Yeah.
very tight hold, put together.
Straight laced,
Yeah,
he's the straight man in the
yeah,
comedies.
and then all of a sudden he's not, and it's just interesting because that's also he's also been typecast since then as the straight man in all of the movies that he's done
Yeah.
practically.
Which is kind of weird because honestly, I think Jason Bateman is actually like a very good actor. Like
He is. I
I
like him a
can't think
lot.
of any
Yeah,
movie I don't like him in.
yeah. I mean, I haven't seen Ozark yet, but that's one of the reasons I really want to because it's taking that typecast and like breaking it open.
Yeah.
Kind
It's the
of,
thing with like Bryan Cranston, he was known as the dad in Malcolm in the Middle, and then he did Breaking Bad.
yeah, yeah. It's just breaking it wide open. Excuse me. So we move on from there. She finds the couple and then goes with her dad to check them out. They have a nice little meeting. It's very official. There's a lawyer there. Garner is being very official about it. It's almost like it's a transaction. Um,
Yeah. And Juno goes off to like poke around the house, I guess, because, this is where her baby's going to end up. So she kind of wants to know.
yeah,
And she kind of discovers that Jason Bateman, Mark, character in the movie, is very much like kind of like her.
he's a rocker fool.
Yeah, he's a rocker fool. He's
Um,
yeah,
and they bond over Les Pauls and Fenders and have a little bit of a jam sesh, of which Garner does not like it.
does not approve,
No,
which is really weird, right? Like
but I think there
she
is a
seems so
level.
against like him just like digging like his stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a level to which this is the conflict. They're like half of the conflict in this movie, but it has. It's not that it has anything to do with Juno. In fact, the characters consciously try to keep it separate. So
Yeah.
there's this thing going on with Jason Bateman and Jennifer Garner, and then there's this thing going on with Juno and the rest of her life, and now and again they intersect and affect each other in a certain way, and it feels like their story arc is actually very interesting to me because it almost feels like it wasn't resolved in a way where it was meant to say this is the right thing to do, but rather it was meant to say this is what you do in this point in time in America. Because Jennifer Garner is very much like I'm a strong, independent woman. Not independent, but she's a
Well,
strong woman who can have a baby and have a job, and all these
I don't even
things.
think that like her whole character is I just want to be a mother. Like that is the only thing I want, but I'm also a career woman and I can't like have kids kind of thing. Like it's her character is a little weird, but I dig it because because she's going with a very like human like emotion as like the underlying thing for her
Yeah, it's
character.
very real. And so same with Jason Bateman. I think there's a level to which like his character has a valid point in saying I don't think he's necessarily feeling the way he is because he felt like he needs to go back and pursue his dream, but he certainly makes the point throughout this movie that he's not ready for kids and he feels like he's being pushed into that regardless of how he feels.
Yeah, and the other thing it's like it seems like would you say their marriage is a happy one?
Mm,
Cuz
no.
it's yeah, it seems like they're I don't even know if they're like in love or what's going on, but it seems like he like okay, this is like the mental like gymnastics I'm doing with how their relationship and marriage went. They probably met in like after his band like did its thing and kind of like fell apart. Like he tried to be a rock star, tried to be the next Kurt Cobain, but it just
Actually,
never happened. Yes.
go back on that because later in one of the scenes she's wearing an Alice in Chains shirt. So I have a sneaking suspicion that they met while he was still doing all that, but she was like in college, kind of thing, like
She was
on
like the
her way up.
groupie with the band. Yeah.
Kind of like they had met in that scene of sorts, and then she was on her way up, and he just happened to be like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna go this way now."
Yeah, like they probably got together. His band probably like broke up or whatever, and like he couldn't do it. And she was like, "Yo, you can get this job, this really like cookie cutter, like you work in commercials, you make music kind of job." And she kind of just absorbed him into this like really suburban life that she was heading towards anyway.
Yeah,
And he would just kind of ended up vibing on it.
yeah,
And now like because all of his stuff is like in boxes now, like he has one room in the house to keep all of his shit,
yeah.
and he's just it's really weird because he acts like I have no idea how old they're supposed to be in this movie because
I would
they're
venture
grown
to say
ass
early 30s.
early 30s. Okay, because they're in their early 30s. He's acting like he's still like 19-ish, 20, like just like in college. He's still acting like that, and Jennifer Gardner's acting like she's like 40, like she's set in her ways, and she's like ready to be like the mom that she wanted to be like way earlier. Like it's really weird.
Yeah,
They just don't seem to have they don't seem to like mesh well, but you can understand why they would be together.
yeah. I think attraction has probably definitely had something to do with it. I think there's a level to which they both were thinking that this is what they need to do. But
Hmm.
there's also a level to which I think Jason Bateman's character is labeled as immature because of his interests, such as
Yeah.
like the music, the movies, all these types of things. Is it immature for you to be interested in slasher movies? Like one scene later points out, no, but like she seems to think that's what immaturity is, and or you know, she I think the thing he says is watch movies that contribute, and it's just like, well, what does that even mean? Is that
Yeah.
immature just because you don't think the slasher movies that he's watching contribute, which in their own way probably due to something that you're not even aware of.
Yeah, like it's really interesting. And I think this is kind of why we're like sticking to this instead of moving on with the plot is because they have a whole like subplot together that is only it's not super explored,
Yeah, and
I guess.
this part of the plot too, this next like 30 minutes after the first 30 minutes, is pretty cut and dry. It's all about Juno getting more and more pregnant. It's all about she runs into a few things at school. It's about her forming a relationship with this new family she's going to give her kid to. She does
And
come over.
basically cutting out Michael Sarah.
Yeah, him kind of, I think specifically for her, it's affirming that it's okay for him to explore other things while she's doing this or whatever it is. I think they have a conversation about that. She obviously gets a little closer to Jason Bateman. Um, and then by the midpoint of this movie, she's, getting close to being ready to pop. And that's when things start to derail.
Yeah, like that's like the weird thing about like I guess the plot of this movie. It's like there's a lot happening in the first like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
A lot of stuff happens. And then there's like a whole like 30-45 minutes where it's just kind of shtick.
a little
It's
bit.
just
Yeah.
Juno and her shtick.
Yeah.
where it's funny, it's, stuff happens, but it's just not like, I don't know what the word is. It just doesn't do anything for the plot.
It's like a lull, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I certainly, as we keep moving on, they do things to, like, they make the baby room, and finally Jason Bateman reveals to Juno, it's like, I don't think I want to be with Jennifer Garner anymore. Um, which obviously Juno does not take very well to, even though it's supposed it's one of those things where it's like he probably shouldn't have said so because she's a teenager and doesn't quite get it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because he tries to explain it to her that it's like, look, you don't understand. Like, you're fucking 16. I'm like 30 something. I got a lot more life experience in this, and I know how I feel, and I don't feel good here. And she's like, I'm old enough to, give birth. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I know shit.
yeah,
But she doesn't. Like, that's the whole point about the whole maturity aspect in this movie.
yeah.
Because it's like, Juno is very much immature. Like, she's just not, like, Juno is not an adult person at all. She
No,
has
no, no.
zero aspects of being like mature or being able to take care of anything. And she tries to have this sense of like she knows everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Is her snarkiness.
as a teenager does, I think when we're all teenagers, there's a level to which in which we are trying to say we know something about the world when we really don't know a whole lot, and that is in a way to kind of take power over this feeling we all have of, like, we don't know shit, and we know that, but if we can say we know our shit, and we can say we know something about the world, that, like, feeling of I don't know what I'm doing kind of goes away,
Yeah.
taking power over the situation. Um, but obviously after that, we kind of are already hitting the low point, in that Jason Bateman tells Juno this, and Juno's kind of beside herself. Jennifer Garner comes home and it's like, "What did you tell her?" Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
Um,
have their whole blow up thing, which isn't really a blow up. Juno just kind of leaves and they just
yeah,
talk about it, I
she's
guess.
she's the one who kind of gets upset, and Jennifer Garner and Jason Bateman just kind of have a whole. Well, I guess we got to figure this out now.
Again, it feels like we're glossing over the plot, but like,
It does a little bit. I think actually, no, I don't think we are, because there's a few things that are still coming. Um,
yeah. We're hitting all the bullet points for like this plot. Like, this is exactly like what's happening in the movie that
yeah,
you need to know to like understand what's going on.
yeah. And there's another thing about this that I kind of like, is that, like with Yes God Yes, there was no real point where I thought that, as with coming of age stories, there should be a point in a coming of age story where the character realizes life is kind of shitty and things don't always go the way you planned, right?
Yeah.
That's an important part of any sort of learning about the world, maturing story.
The confrontation of the reality of how the world works.
Yeah, whereas Yes God Yes, there's a confirmation about how the world, quote unquote, that she lives in works. And it's not really till the end of the movie that we realize it can go the way you want. You just have to
You have to
leave.
bend.
You have to bend, and you have to be able to escape things that you thought you were trapped by. There's not really a moment in which we think, "Oh, well, I thought I was going to try and take hold over this, but it didn't really work,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have to compromise." That's what this movie does, and that's actually one thing I think this movie does well. Is it takes you for a moment and says, this isn't going to go the way that you thought it was going to. This is going to be very messy, and you're going to have to deal with it because that's life. And I think that's what the whole, Jennifer Garner, Jason Bateman subplot is a way to do that without it directly coming from Juno. Um, so obviously Juno speeds off in a car crying. It's very emotional for her, and it is. I can imagine it's being in that situation must be tough to
Yeah.
now be left with, like, I thought I was going to continue to have a life after giving birth to this baby. I don't know what I'm going to do with this baby. Is my life over? This is my,
You know,
like, I feel afraid for my baby.
she basically shunned like the father of the baby, even though she like still really loves him.
Yeah.
And like
Very, it's a
it's
very
really
lonely
weird.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I kind of expected there to be an action here. An action meaning I expected there to be something that really should, like, she was going to make a stupid decision that would then force her to confirm that she needs to keep treading water, rather than she decides on her own to keep treading water. Because obviously after this, she goes and leaves a note at their door again. After they have a short conversation about how the divorce is going to go, she leaves a note at their door and drives off, which we would later learn was a note saying that, you know, I don't know the characters by name, but it's
Vanessa, I'm still in if you're still in.
yeah,
Juno.
and that's a very mature decision to make. But I think it was one of those things where I was waiting for there to be something that, again, I feel like it's exactly how we got it with Yes God Yes. Is I felt like there should have been somebody telling the teenager this, you know. I feel like these aren't the
You
kinds
had
of
the idea where it's like there needs to be like a mentor figure that kind of pushes them there. Where I mean, this movie kind of does. It's like J.K. Simmons, you know, her dad. He gives her the whole thing because Juno's
or really like
conflict.
Allison Janney's character really steps in after this point too.
Yeah, like
But
it's just that's the thing about this movie and this kind of like point where it's like traditionally there's that point where it's like the teenagers at their low and they meet or they talk to like an adult figure, somebody who's, you know, hashtag been through the same shit you did, and they get some message or some meaning out of that conversation, and they take that and that helps them bridge into the decision they have to make. You know, they
yeah,
have to, and I think that's the thing. It's a very traditional, very cookie cutter thing that happens in like a lot of these coming of age stories,
yeah,
where teenager doesn't know how the world works, falls into a situation, tries to figure it out themselves. They can't. They hit a low point. They talk to a figure that's older, been through the life experience. They give them their take on it, and then that gives them the epiphany moment of figuring it out for themselves and crossing that bridge into basically the end of the movie. Where in Juno, it does happen and happens with like J.K. Simmons, her dad, and with her stepmom a little bit, where they kind of figure out this is how you did it. And her conflict is like, hey, people can't stay together. My parents, like my mom and dad divorced, and now I'm living with my stepmom. And though she raised me since I was 10, like she's not really my mom. And me and Bleecker broke up because, you know, we had this baby and I don't really want to be attached to him. And then she finds out this perfect couple that she thought was a perfect couple broke up. And she's like, can love work? Can anybody really stay together?
yeah,
And J.K. Simmons her dad is like, well, me and your stepmom have been together for 10 years and I love every minute of it. Like you just have to try. And
yeah,
that's what Juno figures out. That's the her figuring out epiphany moment.
yeah. And I guess that's an interesting point. But either way, she does go back and leave the note, and then she kind of tries from here to put the pieces back together and everything else that's going on. She confronts Bleecker about going to the prom with another girl while she's pregnant, which, yeah, is kind of a super dick move.
She told him to do it.
She did tell him to do it, but I think it was one of those things where it's like, then, like, think about it from her shoes, I guess. Is
Yeah.
you tell a guy, you know, it's okay, you know, I'll just do the pregnant thing, and then you don't really realize, because you're teenagers, how serious being pregnant is. And then when you decide that after you've gotten a girl pregnant, to go have sex with another girl after prom, it's like, yeah, that's probably a.
I don't think they were fucking after prom. All right.
Oh, they fucked.
I don't give.
Listen, they fuck in an armchair. They're gonna go fuck in that beach house that they're going after.
Look,
Going to
okay,
after prom.
that's just the point that Michael Cera is a fucking lady killer. All right. In 2007, any woman on the planet was his.
He's definitely a baby maker.
Exactly. I don't, that's got to be a thing, right? You know, Sex God Award goes to Michael Cera. Like, Jesus Christ.
He's doing it.
He's
But,
doing it.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things where finally he realizes it's like, yeah, it isn't fair to you to just kind of have you sit on the sidelines, even though I was also responsible for this.
Yeah.
So that's a good point to have been made, and we kind of start getting into the resolution of the movie. One random day, Juno goes into labor, and it's go time. Everybody has the go bag, and they pile into the van on their way to the hospital. And then finally, we get the birth of the baby. Nice emotional moment.
Yeah.
Ellen Page,
Which she doesn't tell Bleecker about.
Yeah, that's true because he had a important meet that day, though he figured it out. I gotta say, I
That
will
was a cute
applaud
moment.
Ellen Page for being such a young actress and also being able to perform. The childbirth scenes are probably super hard to get, and not only super hard to do, but like super hard to get right. And I feel like she really captured the exhaustion and emotion of that in this scene for being a teenager. So I'm pretty kudos to her because that's, it really did seem like her character was rewarded and exhausted by it. But the resolution to the movie just kind of comes around that Jennifer Garner has a baby now. She gets to see her baby, and then we get to see her hold her baby in her home and all this.
Mark's out of the picture. He, wasn't ready to be a father, moved on. But Ellen Page and Michael Cera, Juno and, Bleecker just came back together.
Yeah, now they can be together, and it's nice. It's a good resolution to have them be able to move on from this peacefully, and better for it. It is one of those things where you kind of realize that this story isn't just like a coming of age story, but it's a defining moment story in that this is something they're going to tell the kid about eventually, or is something that the kid's going to ask about someday, and they're going to have to be like, yeah, this is how the mom and dad got together, and then it kind of feels like a story to be passed down at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's a very interesting ending of the movie. I kind of like the ending of this movie. I really dig. I might not like a lot of stuff that comes before it, but the ending is very good.
Yeah. Even specifically the last bit when they're playing guitar together is just a nice little.
Just feels good.
I think we harped on Do the Right Thing, that music video at the beginning of the movie. Well, if you're going to put a music video at the end of your movie, do it like this, because
yeah,
it's really, music has this nice way, like particularly the performance of music has a nice way of capturing emotion, and the piece that they performed together was really a good way to capture it. But that's where we bring ourselves to an end with Juno.
More or less.
After talking about it again, I actually ended up thinking I like this movie a lot more.
Really?
I think because I'm not tackling it from the standpoint of a comedy per se, where before I kind of thought it was kind of like a darkish comedy, like an indie comedy style thing where there's still drama elements. Now I think I fully understand that, yeah, it's probably more of a drama.
That should be a point to anybody who seeks either these films out or whichever one we want to recommend or what have you. It's that these movies are billed as comedies, but David, would you say these movies are funny?
Yes, God, Yes, I think is supposed to be a comedy and is supposed to be funny. This movie, I don't think it's necessarily, its mission statement is not to be funny.
I think the same thing, but reversed. I think Juno is supposed to be a comedy that just, it's not, like we might have just aged past the point where this was like hip funny kind of thing. Whereas Yes God Yes, it's a drama that just happens to have some kind of funny moments in it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I think for me, what I particularly think about is a year before this, Little Miss Sunshine came out. And
Yeah.
I think Juno has a mirrored aspect where there's the funny bits of the movie that we poke fun at because, life sucks, so let's poke fun at it.
Yeah.
But there's still a serious point to be made in all of it. Because I
Well, I
guess,
think Juno's making a serious point, but I think Juno's objective was to be funny.
yeah, and that's my point is like Little Miss Sunshine, maybe you're right then, because Little Miss Sunshine is the dark comedy of that era. And, but, it's still a very emotionally heartfelt movie at the end of it.
Yeah. Also, it stars another Office alum in Little Miss Sunshine in this
Yes.
movie. Yeah, Michael Scott.
We got to do
But
one day. We got to do Little Miss Sunshine. That's one of my favorite movies.
it is. Hey, dude, I'm down. I haven't seen Little Miss Sunshine in like 5 years,
Yeah.
maybe more.
No, that's one of my family's favorites. So we've watched it a few times together. It's a really good movie. But either way, I think we did miss deleted scenes with both these movies. So why don't we just tack it on
We'll
to the
round
end
them
here, huh? Let's tack it on.
Yeah.
Deleted scenes for Yes God Yes. Did you have anything in mind?
Honestly, I was waiting for Jason Voorhees to show up at Crystal Lake. Didn't happen.
Right.
Whatever. But I want to see. You came up with a pretty interesting one. I want to know if the priest knew she was in the closet and he was just like, I wonder if she'll come out, and he just starts jerking off right there.
Ooh,
He's trying to live his like weird like pedo like Playboy fantasy thing. But that would make this movie way darker.
Yeah.
Like way fucking darker.
Interesting deleted scene. The tone shifting deleted scene.
Either that or Jason Voorhees shows up and this turns into a fucking Friday the 13th movie, but
True.
God hates me apparently.
But valid. I think for me, I was waiting on. I'm actually going to do an also not so funny one. Not to say that the scene isn't funny in itself, but the best friend, her best friend, the whole movie, who was also in Stranger Things. She played in the second season, I believe.
Yeah.
I was waiting on her to do something like sexually promiscuous and get caught for it as well, like how the older mentor girl gets caught for blowing the dude, or not gets caught, but like she's Alice sees her blowing the dude behind the mess hall. I was waiting for this like higher than mighty person who's prudish to get caught doing something too.
Okay, this is the deleted scene. That last thing at the end of the movie where they're all around like and they're gonna do their whole thing or whatever to like the final speech at the end of the movie. The priest comes up and is like, "All right, kids. So, letting you know, I found all these fucking condoms and all your shit," and it just revealed that these kids are just having crazy fucking, like, Catholic sex orgies, and Alice just had no idea. She was like, wait, you know what I mean? I'm having troubles, like, jerking off, and you guys are over here fucking railing each other in the gym? What the fuck's going on? No invite? Like, that movie is fucking weird.
Yeah, or here's another interesting point too, because I know you mentioned that you thought it was supposed to be a drama that had elements of comedy. Think about the amount of innuendo in that movie. Like, for example, when she's talking about in the first part in the cafeteria about how she doesn't know what tossing salad is, but then she licks the pudding cup lid. I mean, come on, dude. It's pretty on the nose there, huh?
Bruh. Maybe she just likes some pudding.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, some would say that she likes his pudding.
Fucking disgusting.
Well, the movie said it. But, so,
right.
Juno, let's go into Juno's deleted scenes. What are you thinking for this one? I think you can get a couple good ones out of this.
You can get a couple good ones. Honestly, I'm just kind of like, I'm wondering. I wanted to see Juno, like, a year before this, when she did all the fucked up shit that her parents just don't care about.
Yeah.
Like, she just doesn't care about, like, her getting pregnant, but they're just like, look, you, like, got high on Adderall and jumped into the fountain at the mall.
Oh yeah.
I want to know, is like, has she stolen a car? Is there a thing where she drove down to Mexico? Did she like, kill somebody and her parents hid the body in the backyard? Like, I want to know more about Juno's eclectic past.
I like that.
Because it feels like she's supposed to be it feels like she lived an entirely different movie. She lived a totally different coming of age, like, sex comedy before this movie. I want to see that movie.
Interesting. I think for me, the deleted scene I would want to see is, I want to see the Michael Cera scene in which Bleeker curses at his mom, and then she gets all like, Bleeker, and then it's like,
clutches her pearls moment.
Well, you know what, Mom? I don't give a shit. And then she goes, what? How could you say this to your mother? And then he's like, because I thought that might have been a really good, now that I think about it, that could have been a really good scene for, like, she's having the baby and Bleeker's been going through this whole thing where it's like, well, should I be a part of it or shouldn't I? And the mom is like, you shouldn't be associating with that girl. And then he's finally, like, putting his foot down, like, I like this girl, Mom, and you're being a real bitch about it. And then she goes like, Bleeker.
That's the thing. Like, he never has the whole, like, granted, it's not his movie, but he never has the whole, like, I'm going to be a man about this situation. It's like, well, I'm Michael Cera.
Yeah, and I get it.
I'm a sex god.
It's a quiet story, so I get it's supposed to be a quiet resolution. But you know what? His mom's a bitch, so we should see her get her comeuppance. But I think those are some good deleted scenes. Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
Now let's I guess compare these movies a little bit.
Yes.
Bring them together.
Let's toss the salad as
fucking disgusting.
Let's see what.
All right.
Okay.
So we do not know how much money it cost to make Yes God Yes. That's just, it's way too new. We have no idea how much it made or how much it cost to make. Juno, we absolutely know. So do you want to take a shot on that one? How the financial success of this film?
Yeah, I feel like there was a little bit of money poured into this. I don't think it was done on a dirt cheap budget. I'm going to guess over under.
Give me an over under.
Over 5 million, under 10 million.
Ooh, you're on the money there. $7.5 million.
Ooh, I should have gone lower because I was thinking around 8 million, but yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
$7.5 million. This movie brought in $23 million in its box office.
Not too shabby.
This movie made a shit ton of money.
Yeah, and I'd argue too that this movie came out at a really opportune time in which Blockbuster was still around, though on its way out, and Netflix DVD service was definitely on the rise. So I'm sure they made a buco pile of money on, the rental
This
sales.
is one of the first movies I remember being like, you could only get it on DVD. It didn't exist on VHS. Which was like really weird.
Yeah, my sister had it on DVD. Yeah.
But then we go on. So which one of these movies is the better coming of age movie? Which did we like better? Which did we think worked better? Which would we recommend?
So this is interesting.
Yeah.
I think if it came down to my personal taste, I would recommend Yes God Yes.
Okay. Why Yes God Yes as a personal taste?
I think Juno's a heavy movie. I mean, really, if you're gonna sit down and watch it, you're gonna be thinking and feeling some emotional things. It's not a movie that you're just gonna sit down and be able to get through and like, that was fun, It'll be a movie that either at the end you're gonna be like, that was pretty good, It's
that. Yeah.
It's a little bit more poignant in that way. Whereas I feel like Yes God Yes, especially because of the runtime, is as a movie that you can sit down, get in a quick bite size, and be like, that was fun, because there's some jokes, there's some good jokes in it. It's super short. It's quick. It has a really good pacing to it. I will say that too. I don't feel like there was a lull in that movie.
Hmm.
And I think Natalia Dyer did a really good job. So I personally really enjoyed it. But obviously that's not to say that if I had to say this in a more academic sense, yeah, Juno is still probably the better coming of age movie.
But if you had to recommend,
Yeah.
based on your personal taste,
Yeah.
is it Yes God Yes?
Yes, God, yes.
Okay. Now, my piece on this is Yes God Yes, I think is like Uncut Gems. Hear me out. Is that this movie is good and based around a singular performance. Uncut Gems, like that movie is big, weird, bombastic, a lot of shit's happening, but that movie is driven and is great based on Adam Sandler's performance in Uncut Gems. And I think Yes God Yes is the same thing. This movie is good because of Natalie Dyer's performance. She's a very good actress. She carries the movie very well. It's a very well done film based around this one performance.
Yeah.
Juno is just kind of good. I will put it like this: it is an enjoyable film. You'll get a couple of fun moments in it, but it's just kind of good. It's not a great movie. It's not going to revolutionize your life. I mean, it might. I don't know. I'm not you. But I watched Juno and I was like, I can only kind of relate to these characters. But in Yes God Yes, I really was able to relate to Alice and follow her better as a protagonist. And I think that's because the performance in Yes God Yes was better. So I would recommend Yes God Yes. And you can watch Juno if you just want to. But Yes God Yes is probably the better movie.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is I mentioned earlier that I'm actually really a big fan of all the movies that have come out of this girl-centric coming of age story. We've got a lot of good ones from Edge of 17, Lady Bird, obviously Yes God Yes now, and I hope they continue to pump some of these out because I think they come out with some really good stories.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I love all these. I love all kinds of movies, and these are very good movies. It's just Juno is the forefather of this genre of film,
Oh yeah.
where it's the girl-centric coming-of-age teenage movie, where very strong female lead, very strong female protagonist, very strong female focal pointed eye. But the movie feels like it was made in 2007 that was trying to harken back to 1999. And it's
bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's 2020, and I don't think the shtick works anymore. Yes, God, yes, I think that shtick will work way longer.
Yeah, because it's nostalgia based too.
Yeah. Well, it's really weird because it's it is nostalgia based on the most awkward of nostalgias. Because you're watching Yes, God, yes, and it's barely making point that it's taking place in 1999. Barely makes point of it.
A little bit, yeah. After a while, it's just kind of mentioned every now and again.
Yeah. But yeah, I would, if I had to recommend, watch Yes, God, yes. It's less than 80 minutes. You'll breeze right through it, and you'll feel kind of cool because it's an art house movie that you probably haven't seen before. It's neat. It's new. So,
well, that brings us to the climax of the podcast. We're gonna have a cigarette at the end now. We did it. Dean, why don't you tell them where they can follow us, where they can find out everything we're doing?
Well, you can find us on our YouTube channel. That's In the Frame.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. I mean, I go there often, so I should know. You can also find us on Instagram. That's the Double Feature _podcast. You can also find us on Anchor. Same thing, Double Feature Podcast. We're also on, are we on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and we on anything else yet?
Yeah, there's a few others. We have links down in the description.
Down the doobly-doo.
Yeah, as they say. For all the different platforms you can get us on. Give us a follow. Keep listening. You know, this is our 11th episode now. We're a real podcast. Double
We're
digits.
real, boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Dean, it was a pleasure.
As always.
Yes.
God. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We had to get there somewhere. Okay.
All right.
Oh, what's next week's?
Next week we got finally I get to do my baseball movies.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yes, we're gonna have Moneyball, Aaron Sorkin, and then Bull Durham, a wonderfully gritty little baseball movie. It's baseball season, guys. I gotta get my kicks somehow. All right, my team sucks this year. I've had to defer to a different team to follow. It's rough, but
We're going to hear David talk about baseball for like 2.5 hours. We're a baseball podcast next week.
yeah, next week we're strictly a baseball podcast. But it'll be fun. Trust me, these are good movies, and I think you're gonna like them. Because have you
Alright.
seen either of these before?
No, actually. This is going to be me. I'm going in blind
Okay.
on both these movies.
Yeah, dude. Bull Durham was one that we watched during like before home games on my high school baseball team. So it's ingrained in my memory now.
Don't worry. When we get to football movies, then I'll be the one freaking out. It's going to be great.
Yes. Well, until then, enjoy, guys, and thank you for listening to us. Dean, I'll see you next week.
Peace.